Hey there, this is Jason with Banna Properties, and as a land investor, often when I buy properties, I get a lot of people that want to sell their property or maybe own land, and they think that the layout of the land is such. Maybe they haven't visited the property in a long time, or sometimes they inherited the property and they never have seen it. Or maybe they're going to buy the property and they have an expectation that the property looks like such because they saw it on a map. Now, in today's video, I want to show you some tools on how to check the topography of your land. Now, topography is a big word. I remember when I was in Boy Scouts, there was actually a merit badge for orienteering, and we had to learn how to read maps, and we had to learn a little bit about topography. That was probably the only time in my entire childhood that I heard the word topography. But maybe you've heard of topographical maps. I'm going to cover that today. What this word means is basically the layout of the earth, what it looks like, what the lay of the land looks like. Is it flat? Is it hilly? What does it look like? So how could you find out if you own a piece of land, or maybe you're looking to buy a piece of land, or maybe you have a piece of land and you think, is it worth anything? Could I use it for the purpose I want, or should I sell it? How can you find out what that property looks like without being there? Okay, there are a couple ways you can do this online. The best way, obviously, is to go visit the property and walk it. But even having these maps and these little tricks up your sleeve will help you navigate, especially a larger piece of acreage, when you do go visit it. So the first thing that we're going to cover here today, we need to go to Google Earth. Okay, now Google Earth Pro is a free download. Many of you on your phone probably use Google Maps. Maybe you put something in Google Maps and it'll give you directions while you're driving. It's a very handy tool. You can actually download on your phone Google Earth as well, but it won't have the features on your phone that I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so if you're an outdoorsman or you own land and you want to go explore it or you want to see about it, you need to download Google Earth Pro for free onto your computer. All right, so we've downloaded it, and I have a piece of property here. This is a 12-acre property in Missouri, and we want to look at this property. So you can see the layout of this is kind of unique. There's some road going around it. And as we look at the property, we can see, oh, that's neat. These are the roads and the names, and there's some fields, and here's the lake. I believe this is Lake of the Ozarks, or one of the branches of Lake of the Ozarks. And as we pull in, you might think, wow, what a beautiful wooded property. I imagine myself out there camping, and maybe I'll clear out this section and make a garden, and maybe I'll do a little deer hunting out there. You imagine that, but we're not sure what this property actually looks like on the ground. So we don't want to be surprised and buy something or go out there and visit it and we don't know what it looks like. So the very first thing you're going to do is, this is probably the simplest way to do this, is to click Layers button over here on the bottom left, and it opens another menu. And there's a button here that says Terrain. Go ahead and click Terrain, and it will activate the terrain filter here on Google Earth. Now, this is a pretty neat tool because as I zoom in, and what I'm doing, I'm just scrolling my mouse scroller up. As I zoom in, it's starting to take an angle, and I'm starting to see, oh, that property's not flat. Actually, it's quite rolling. There's a hill right in the center of it. Okay, actually, it looks like there's sort of this road is way down in a ditch here. So there's quite the fall here. This is kind of a mountainous area. Now, this would be to expect. It's to be expected. We are talking about the Ozarks, which is quite a hilly and mountainous region. But let's go ahead, and with this filter on, I'm just gonna go ahead and scroll around and kind of look at the 360 view of this property. Very interesting. Okay, now the closer I get, the better I'm going to be able to see how this property is laid out. Now remember, this is Google Earth. It's not as accurate. It's not a survey. It could have a mistake, but it will give you a general idea and expectation. So you can see that this road is going downhill toward the lake pretty severely. And we can see there's quite a hill here. That doesn't look like there's actually much of a flat place on this property, right? So that is using the terrain filter. So I can really see how the lay of the land is. And you can just click and drag it, which is what I'm doing, scrolling around here to take a better look at the property. Okay, now let's go ahead and Get back to our map view. Let's say we want to know a little more accurately how this property lays out. With the tree cover, you can't see it that well through Google Earth. So we want to know what this region looks like on the ground. And this is where we find a topographical map. Now, a topographical map is a map that was made that shows the contour lines of the Earth. Okay, now they could be a little confusing, but I'm going to explain it to you. So first thing I'm going to do is here in Places, I actually went to a website. Okay, I went to earthpoint.us and I'll show it to you here. Now, they do offer some paid subscriptions on this website, but if you go to Topo Map, you can see free. User account is not needed. So I don't actually need to pay for this, which is quite neat. So this is totally free. And you just can click this to view it on Google Earth. I've already done that. It will download a filter. And it will show up here when you click on Places, Earth Point Topo Map. So it's a topographical map. I'm going to go ahead and click that filter. And sometimes it'll take a minute to load. It'll kind of show you these little loading symbols. Now, it is a little blurry. It's not that clear. But you can see immediately that there is an overlay of a topographical map. Now, something to remember in topography is the closer the lines are together, the steeper the fall. So these lines over here that are really wide, that means that this is pretty much flat or it has a very slight slope. And where the lines are closer, the slope gets sharper. So if we were to look up here, these are probably those hay fields that we saw on the map. We go ahead and take the filter off. Yep, here's the fields. They're pretty well flat. Just a little bit of fall to them. But if we look down here where our property is, there's almost this type of a ravine that's coming down here. You can see these lines, there's a fairly sharp fall, or a hill, comes down a hillside, and then it kind of goes through here. There probably is some sort of a creek that goes along that road, draining water out, I imagine, during rains. And then you can see what looks like our property. It actually has a couple different little ravines or ridges, and then there's this higher ridge in the center. So you can see these wavy lines are showing the contour, and the closer the lines, the sharper the fall. So I'll give you a perfect example of that. Here it says Horse Thief Bluff, okay, right along the lake, and you can see how sharp these lines are. They're very sharp here. Now let's go ahead and take this filter off, and let's zoom back down. Remember, we do have the filter already on here for the topographical stuff or the terrain. And you can see that there's a very steep bluff here. It's almost like a treed cliff. These houses here, they probably don't want to go beyond their yard, or they might fall down into the lake. So you can see that was those very sharp lines. That's very hard to walk. So the tighter the lines are with Google Earth, the harder it is going to be to walk. So that can give us a much better perspective of what the property and the area actually looks like. And that topographical map will show certain roads and waterways as well. All right, so it's just a very simple free tool that you can use to look at your property and get a realistic idea of what the lay of the land is. Now, if you have a property and you say, you know what, I'd like to sell this property. I'm not using it, or I don't like the layout of it. It's not going to work for my purposes. We would love it if you would go ahead and submit that property on our website. There's a form here where you can submit the property for a cash offer. We'd take a look at it. We also pass that to other vetted land investors in our network, and we will respond to you with an offer to purchase your property. All right, thank you. I hope this video has been a great help to you. Have a great day.